What's the strangest thing someone has said about you on social media?
Somebody said that I looked like Orlando Bloom if he was hit in the face with a shovel.
Do you agree?
Sometimes. He's a good-looking guy.
What unites the Mandalorian?
Do you have a land speeder or speeder bike that I could hire?
Sly Red Fox.
Allow me to introduce myself. Fink, predator and local goose expert.
And a Cuban mom.
Oh my college boy, I missed you so much. You don't talk enough, bad boy. I kill you, I put you in jail.
It's very simple. They're all played by a charismatic actor, Pedro Pascal. And these are not the most striking roles yet. Just remember his participation in Game of Thrones, Narcos, Gladiator 2, and also The Last of Us, and the reboot of the Fantastic Four. It's incredible how he manages everything. Isn't it because he went to his dream of becoming an actor for a very long time and became world famous at almost 40? Well, it's time to get acquainted with this phenomenon of our time, look a little into his life, and find out. How did 9-month-old Pedro become a refugee from his native Chile? Why does he call the scene of the brutal death of one of his characters the most pleasant? Does he have a lover? And which autographed pillow will he keep forever? You're on the Biographer channel. Get comfortable, and we're getting started. Pedro Pascal, whose real name is José Pedro Balmaceda Pascal, was born on April 2, 1975 in Santiago, Chile. His father, José Balmaceda Riera, was a doctor who specialized in fertility, and his mother, Veronica Pascal Lloreta, worked as a psychologist. Pedro also has an older sister, Javiera, a younger brother, Nicholas, and a younger sister named Lux, who followed in her brother's footsteps and is an actress as well as a transgender activist. By the way, Pascal is now an LGBTQ+ rights defender and supported his sister Lux when she announced that she would go through a transformation process. Lux noted, "He has been an important part of this. He's also an artist and has been a guide. He was one of the first to give me the things that formed my identity." The actor's childhood was not as cloudless as that of most children. The fact is that he grew up in a family that not only gave him love and support, but was also closely connected with the political struggle. Pascal's mother was a cousin of Andrés Pascal Allende, nephew of the socialist president of Chile, Salvador Allende. Pascal Allende was the first leader of the Revolutionary Left Movement, a militant far-left organization. 2 years before Pascal was born, the democratically elected socialist government of Salvador Allende was overthrown by General Augusto Pinochet, which led to the country becoming a military dictatorship. The actor's parents were listed as enemies of the state, and the family eventually fled Chile when he was 9 months old, after seeking asylum in the embassy of Venezuela in Santiago for 6 months. I'm a refugee. My parents fled Chile under Pinochet in 1976 when I was 9 months old, and my parents were able to start from nothing and make lives for themselves in the United States. The family took refuge first in Denmark and then moved to the United States. Little Pedro grew up in an atmosphere where politics and justice issues were important topics in family conversations. Before Pedro was 8 years old, the Pascal family was able to visit their homeland regularly to see the actor's cousins. His parents eventually returned home in 1995. Pedro spent his first years in America in San Antonio, Texas. There, his parents tried to create a new life for the family. Although it was not easy for the Chilean boy Pascal to adapt to the rules and laws of the state at first. By the time I was 4, we were living in San Antonio, Texas, and I just remember picking a bluebonnet and getting yelled at by some guy with a sheriff hat and a badge, the actor recalled. I was traumatized. He told me it was the state flower and I wasn't supposed to be messing with it. Pedro, however, didn't even realize at the time that their family was any different from the others. I remember at one point not even realizing that my parents had accents until a friend was like, "Why does your mom talk like that?" Pascal says, and I remember thinking, like what? But despite this, the actor loved life in San Antonio. His father took him and his older sister to basketball games during the week if they did their homework on time. It wasn't a problem for Pedro. He was a very curious boy, fond of reading and fond of telling stories. For many years, he was also professionally engaged in swimming and even participated in state championships. And although Pascal initially thought about a career as an athlete, a small sports injury negated this dream. In addition to sports, Pascal loved movies. The actor recalled that his family often went to movie theaters, and it became a kind of family ritual, a way to absorb as much of American pop culture as possible. When Pedro was about 4 years old, he and his family went to watch the popular 1978 film Superman, starring Christopher Reeve. At some point during this particular visit, Pascal needed to go to the restroom, and his parents allowed him to go alone. I didn't really know how to read yet, the actor recalled that episode. I did not find my way back to Superman. Instead, the boy went to another hall. According to his own memories, it was the drama Kramer versus Kramer. Afraid that he was lost, he curled up in one of the seats and fell asleep. And when he woke up, the movie was already over. The hall was empty, and his parents were standing over him. To his surprise, they looked quite calm, but that's not the most interesting thing. I know that they finished their movie, Pascal said cheerfully. My sister was trying to get a rise out of me by telling me this happened and that happened, and then Superman did this, and, the earthquake and spinning around the planet. To which Pedro did not lose his head and replied, all that happened in my movie too. Like many kids of the 80s, Pascal was a big fan of Indiana Jones as well as George Lucas's Star Wars saga. It's weird to have that movie be some of the earliest memories you can carve out from the recesses of your mind. That incredible desert landscape, the floating vehicle, the hologram of Princess Leia, a terrifying trash compactor. I had that stuff getting into my childhood imagination so young and marking it. The boy even tried to imitate Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, and as an adult, he repeatedly emphasized the impact of this franchise on him as a child. They were the biggest movies of my childhood, and, of course, with the movies came the merchandise. Those first 3 films dominated my childhood. After his father got a job in Orange County, California, Pascal's had to change their place of residence. For Pedro, who had just finished 5th grade, it was a shock. There were 2 really, really rough years, he says, a lot of bullying. To overcome his loneliness, he started reading plays. I didn't fit in, and it was pretty lonely. The way that I was occupying my time, I started reading plays and renting the classics. Pedro began playing in school productions and studied in theater circles. It was then that he realized that he wanted to devote his life to cinema and the stage. Perhaps if not for the theater, Pedro would have become a historian or a writer because he liked to explore the past and invent his own stories. He was also interested in filmmaking, which is noticeable in his approach to acting. He always tries to understand the director's vision of the stage, but fate turned out differently, and Pascal completely immersed himself in acting. At the age of 11, Pascal began studying at the Orange County School of the Arts, OCSA, a newly established performing arts school that his mother found for him. The actor recalled that at the time, the conditions at school were not the best. When I was there, the school did not have an independent campus. The actor said they had trailers on the grounds of Los Alamitos High and had this abandoned middle school that was close enough to walk to. It was all very makeshift and innocent at the very beginning, which is kind of cool.
They were a little badass and snuck me a cigarette and we got caught. That kind of stuff.
At the time, he was living in Newport Beach, and the school was located in Los Alamitos. His trips to study often took place through a carpooling system with other students from different areas. It's known that one of the locations was in the parking lot of the South Coast Plaza Shopping Center. Pascal recalled how his parents were waiting there with him for the car that took him to school. So when he got his driver's license, they finally breathed a sigh of relief. The creative environment at OCSA gave Pedro many opportunities to develop his acting skills. It was there that he was able to perform and improve his performance among talented peers, which laid a solid foundation for his future film career. However, the actor noted that it was not easy for him to join the team. I had a really hard time in Orange County. I was a nerd. I was watching foreign cinema when I was 13 and talking about how Hope and Glory should be a foreign film. By the way, in the fall of 2014, Pascal returned to the OCSA campus in Santa Ana to participate in a master's program for graduates. He was impressed with the way the school had evolved since his studying, noting that he was overwhelmed by the new facilities and the students. In his final year, a friend of his mother's gave Pascal a ticket to a long 2-part play that was being played in downtown Los Angeles. It was a pre-Broadway show of Angels in America. According to Pedro, this play changed him. How it was, the actor did not specify. Pascal graduated from OCSA in 1993 and then continued his studies at the Tisch School of the Arts in New York City until 1997. The actor recalls this time with a smile. The acting training in school was great, but it was mostly fun being young and in New York. In addition, this city, according to Pascal, became his home. Because my upbringing was so transient, New York ended up being my home. I've been living in New York longer than I have anywhere else in my life. After graduating from the New York University School of the Arts, Pascal first went to Los Angeles, the capital of the film industry, and began actively going to auditions. But fate did not want to smile at him then, and the guy returned to the Big Apple. There he continued to storm auditions. These were usually roles for advertising or low-budget films, but even in such minor projects, for some reason they did not take him. In order to somehow pay the bills, Pedro began working part-time in cafes and restaurants as a waiter. According to him, he did not achieve any success in this profession.
If I liked you, and if I didn't, I didn't, and that didn't necessarily go well with having a bunch of customers.
But Pascal didn't care. After all, he was more worried about the acting profession. At auditions, Pedro received refusal after refusal. However, his abilities and talent were often praised, which made him not give up and go to his goal. I guess that, and this delusional self-determination and no real skill at anything else is what kept me going. The star admitted. In 1996, Pedro still got his first role in the short film Burning Bridges, directed by Eugene Martin. In this 18-minute drama, Pascal portrays Alex, a young gang member who meets a woman named Lorraine in a bus, played by Brooke Anderson. The film explores their brief interaction, highlighting the themes of connection and challenges of urban life. Burning Bridges has won acclaim at several film festivals, including the Philadelphia World Film Festival, where it was nominated for Best Short Film. But for Pascal, this was only the first successful attempt out of several dozen unsuccessful ones that followed it. In particularly difficult times, Pascal relied on the support of close friends. Actress Sarah Paulson, whom he became friends with shortly after moving to New York in 1993, generously shared her earnings with Pedro so that he could buy food for himself. When Pascal had less than $7 in his bank account and could not afford medical care, he received a check for his role in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which provided much-needed financial assistance and allowed him to continue waiting for his finest hour. In the series, Pascal played a student named Eddie, Buffy's new friend, who's kidnapped and turned into a vampire. It's so interesting to see Pascal's exceptional acting abilities, which were demonstrated back in 1999 when he played a clumsy college freshman who's dating Buffy Summers. Unfortunately, his character, like many other vampires, was not waiting for a bright future, but to turn into dust. So Pascal took part in the show only for one episode.
Wow, sorry.
No, I wasn't looking.
Did you, lose your way?
Me? Oh, no, I'm just going to Fisher Hall, which I know is on the Earth planet.
Even such a small role inspired the young actor to move on. But the sudden death of his mother, who had only been allowed to return to Chile a few years earlier, unsettled him. He lost his agent, and his career almost completely came to a standstill. As a sign of respect for his mother, Pedro decided to change his professional surname from Balmaceda to Pascal. And also, because Americans had such a hard time pronouncing Balmaceda, he says, it was exhausting. Pascal also tried to change his name from Pedro to Alexander, in honor of Ingmar Bergman's Fanny and Alexander. I was willing to do absolutely anything to work more, and that meant if people felt confused by who they were looking at in the casting room because his first name was Pedro, then I'll change that. It didn't work. The actor even played in the police TV drama NYPD Blue under the name Alexander. He only appeared there in one episode of the 8th season and played a troubled young goth. But after this cameo role, Pedro decided to remain Pedro and not change his name. It wasn't the best time for a young actor. From time to time, however, he had some work to do, like a role in one of the episodes of the then popular TV series Law & Order. By the way, on the set, he met Maria Dicia, the star of the TV series Orange is the New Black. And at the same time, rumors began to circulate about their romance. Despite the fact that the couples never openly admitted their relationship, fans of the stars still hoped that the rumor had at least some basis. But at that time, Pedro was not up to relationships at all. For the most part, he was concerned about the development of his career and knocked on closed doors, along with dreamers like him. One of these dreamers was his friend Oscar Isaac, whom Pedro met during a Broadway play. They quickly found a common language and became inseparable. It's gotten better, but at that point it was so easy to be pigeonholed in very specific roles because we're Latinos, says Isaac. It's like, how many gang member roles am I going to be sent? At that time, friends did not dream of recognition and fame. They thought in more primitive categories. The dream was to be able to pay rent, says Isaac. There wasn't a strategy. We were just struggling. It was talking about how to do this thing that we both love but seems kind of insurmountable. After cameo roles, the charismatic Pascal still got a permanent job in the TV series The Good Wife. It was quite a popular drama for its time, which lasted 7 seasons. Pascal appeared in several episodes of The Good Wife during the first 2 seasons and played a hostile assistant state's attorney, Nathan Landry, who tried to keep the main character's husband in prison. About the features of filming, Pedro said the following.
They didn't have sets yet, so we shot in a real Queens County courthouse. So they were night shoots because it was a functioning courthouse in Queens during the day, so the only time we could shoot the courthouse scenes in the first season was overnight.
Pascal says he loved working on the show and continued to watch it long after he finished shooting there. In 2010, Pedro Pascal also appeared in one of the episodes of the medical drama TV show Nurse Jackie. He played a worried father named Steve who brings his daughter to the hospital with a suspected serious illness. The storyline of this episode explored the challenges that parents face when dealing with their children's potential illnesses, and Pascal's performance as a concerned father only added depth to the story. In addition to appearing in television projects, Pedro did not forget about the theater. So, in the same year, he personally wrote the play Flaca Loves Bone, about 4 brothers and sisters who meet in a snow-covered forest to reveal a family secret. At the same time, Pascal made his directorial debut with the production of Killing Play at the Rattlestick Playwrights Theater. Since both plays were shown during the theater festival as part of a demonstration of new works by contemporary playwrights, they were not evaluated by critics. However, we have no doubt that Pascal coped with his functions as a director and playwright perfectly. The following year brought Pedro a role in the TV movie Burn Notice: The Fall of Sam Axe, which became a prequel to the popular TV series Burn Notice. In the film, the actor played the main antagonist, Comandante Veracruz, a corrupt police leader in Colombia. Pascal's portrayal of such a controversial character added depth to the narrative, demonstrating his ability to embody complex antagonistic roles. One of them, by the way, will be a real breakthrough in his career.
Fantastic. Perhaps you would like to relax, eat some supper? My men and I are going to scout the area.
Pascal's appearance in the pilot episode of Wonder Woman in 2011 was also interesting. He was cast as Ed Indelicato, Wonder Woman's liaison to the Los Angeles Police Department, but the show was unfortunately canceled. The actor then did not even suspect that in 10 years he would still play in Wonder Woman, although in its sequel, Wonder Woman 1984, and already in the role of the main antagonist, but more on that later. And right before his breakthrough role, guess where? In 2014, Pascal joined the cast of the TV series The Mentalist, where he played FBI agent Marcus Pike. His character, who's in love with the main character Teresa Lisbon, played by actress Robin Tunney, added flair to the series. And the plot twist with Lisbon's invitation to Washington, where Pike was offered the position, added complexity to Tunney's character, especially because of her difficult and interesting relationship with the series' main character, Patrick Jane, portrayed by Simon Baker.
And I made one of my best friends, Robin Tunney. She was kind of like the film indie queen through the 90s, and just so beautiful and such a good actress. And then we became such good friends.
Interestingly, Pascal and Tunney became very close after filming. They often appeared together in photos, ate in restaurants, and even went out on several red carpets, for example, at the Emmy Awards in 2015. But none of the actors recognized anything more than friendly relations. Do you think there was anything between them or not? Write your guesses in the comments. We'll definitely read them. Whatever it was, but after numerous roles in TV shows and almost despondency in his own strength, Pascal still managed to gain a place in the sun. His breakthrough in the film industry came from the role of Oberyn Martell in Game of Thrones, which marked the beginning of his ascent to the top. However, getting this role was not so easy, as Pedro had to take several controversial steps, including going to the betrayal of his ward. After Pascal agreed to help the young graduate with his first audition for the role of Oberyn, he did not think that he would audition for the same role himself. However, after picking up the script and getting acquainted with Martell, Pedro was delighted with it. And as his protege went to the restroom, the actor quickly sent a message to his manager to secure an audition for Game of Thrones. He's like a 25-year-old kid, really talented, good-looking, and I'm helping him go on tape for this new, amazing role. The star recalled. He'd never seen the show. I was a huge fan, and I'm reading the sides, and I'm like, this is amazing. I was like, this is perfect for me. He goes to the bathroom, and I text my manager right away. It's terrible. Joking about this, Pascal admitted that he should apologize to his ward. To get a role in a TV show, the actor had to learn more than 20 pages of dialogue by heart in a short time and record it all on video. Sharing memories of this time, Pascal said, "I had my friends tape me with my iPhone." He said, "There were so many pages. So the easiest way for somebody to sit in front of you with an iPhone and then just kind of like have the pages down here and read it casually. And the suckers fell for it. Is that my fault? No, it's theirs." Pedro then asked his friend Sarah Paulson for help. She agreed to give the recording to her best friend Amanda Peet, who's married to one of the showrunners of Game of Thrones, David Benioff. And while Benioff wasn't impressed with the quality of the tape, Pascal's flawless performance was enough to get its attention. First of all, it was an iPhone selfie audition, which was unusual, Benioff recalled. And this wasn't one of the newfangled iPhones with the fancy cameras. It looked like shit. It was shot vertical, the whole thing was very amateurish, except for the performance, which was intense and believable and just right. Before Pascal knew it, he was in Belfast, sitting in the Great Hall of the Red Fort as one of the judges in the trial of Tyrion Lannister for the murder of King Joffrey. I was between Charles Dance and Lena Headey with a view of the entire fucking set. Pascal said, I couldn't believe I didn't have an uncomfortable costume on. You know, I got to sit and with this view. He sighed. It strangely aligned itself with the kind of thinking I was developing as a child that at that point I was convinced was not happening. Pedro also enthusiastically talked about the scenes of fights with cool techniques, especially the turns like a helicopter, but the actor admitted that not all the combat choreography was his merit.
That would be Liang, who is a wushu expert and master and has gone on to do the Jedi fights in the Star Wars movies. But I did learn the fight. I did training in Los Angeles for a couple of weeks before going and shooting, and then throughout the whole shoot before getting to the fight, there were fight rehearsals and fight training and stuff like that, and it was very, very specifically choreographed. And if you see my face, it is me.
By the way, since Pedro mentioned Lena Headey, then we'll remember something because it was between these two actors, according to rumors, there was an affair. Pascal's a pretty private person and does not talk about his personal life, but about Lena during one of the interviews, he said so. Lena is one of my favorite persons, and she's so funny and so smart, such a good person, a good friend and a good mother. I think everyone on that set and anyone who comes in contact with her develops an instant crush. The actor also added, talk about male or female, you're going to get a crush on her easy, and I was just lucky that I got to work with her and hit it off and continue being friends. The role of Oberyn Martell opened up many new projects for Pascal, and while his character didn't last even an entire season, he received a lot of praise from critics and audiences alike. So, Esquire magazine named Martell one of the best characters in the series, and another publication, the Los Angeles Times, awarded Pascal the title of sex symbol, calling his role the real tipping point in his career. And Pedro himself was not upset by his movie death, noting, quote, if I'm actually up there and if I'm in the top 3, then I don't need to do it. I'd say everything thereafter is a bit futile. Why am I still trying? I did it. By the way, Pascal has, oddly enough, the best memories of the terrible scene of the death of his character.
There were all of these fleshy bits kind of placing all over my face and pumping blood so that it would pool. I was dead asleep. Because it was so hot and this stuff was so cooling to the touch.
For his role as Oberyn Martell and the entire cast, he received a nomination for the Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Drama Series.
If I cut your throat today, I will be drawn and quartered tomorrow.
Men at war commit all kinds of crimes without their superiors' knowledge.
So you deny involvement in Elias' murder?
Categorically.
Do you think Martell deserves the title of one of the best characters in the series? Write your opinions in the comments and we'll discuss it. After that, Pascal's career took off. His next project was the 2015 horror comedy Blood-Sucking Bastards, where the actor played the role of Max, a manipulative sales manager who's actually a vampire. His performance added a charismatic yet sinister vampire to the film, contributing to its cult following among genre enthusiasts.
Blood-Sucking Bastards was it was the first thing that I did after I had shot Game of Thrones. That was a big, broad comedy. A lot of the conversations that I've been having is questions around feeling new to comedy and broadening my horizons. But Blood-Sucking Bastards was dip into very broad comedy, and I had a really good time.
On the review aggregator site Rotten Tomatoes, the film's approval rating is 67%, with an average rating of 5.79 out of 10. Critics noted Blood-Sucking Bastards gets a few gallons of B-movie fun out of its sanguine humor and solid cast, even if it isn't quite as wild as the title might suggest. But most of all, 2015 was remembered by Pedro thanks to another project, the hit crime series from Netflix, Narcos. There, Pascal portrayed DEA agent Javier Peña. The show's first 2 seasons depicted the rise and fall of the infamous Pablo Escobar and the Medellin cartel. But in the 3rd and final season, the show's focus shifted to the Cali cartel, and Pascal himself took on the role of the main actor and narrator. To truly embody their character, Pascal and his colleague Boyd Holbrook were trained at the DEA Academy in Quantico, Virginia. During this exciting experience, they were tasked with simulating various situations that might happen to agents. One of these tasks was to knock on the door of a special person with whom he already knew, buy prohibited substances from him, and leave without arresting him.
And I knock on the door, and the guy invites me inside the house immediately, and I am terrified. I just know that these DEA agents are having fun with stupid actors that are trying to be cool at Quantico. And he's like, come on inside. And I was like, no, I don't think I should. And he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know what's wrong. And he's like, you're being different. And I'm like, so are you.
Filming of the series took place in Colombia. The production used authentic locations to enhance realism, such as the Casa de Nariño in Bogota, the house that served as the presidential palace in the series. Of course, there were some difficulties. The film crew had to manage complex logistics, obtain permits to shoot in hazardous areas, and ensure the safety of the cast and crew in regions historically associated with cartels. But despite these obstacles, the production successfully reflected the essence of the locations, contributing to the fascinating narrative of the series. Pedro admitted that he was on good terms with the prototype of his character, the real agent, Javier Peña, and spoke warmly of him. I met him before I met even my bosses. He was a great guy. He's a really relaxed, easygoing guy. He's not expecting anything from you. He's not putting any kind of pressure on you. He doesn't want to insist on telling you, like, I'm giving you insights.
And it was funny, too, because I was apprehensive about the training, and I found it intimidating, and I just was really nervous about the whole thing. And Boyd was like, we're going to Quantico, and we're going to do this. And I was like, do we have to?
Since the events of the series took place in the 80s, the character's clothing was appropriate. Pascal joked that during filming he felt like a child trying on someone else's clothes. So he came up with a suitable image which he described as, let's just say Javier Peña is like Don Draper in that like the 70s is his. That was where he really found himself, and so he's stuck there. He's not throwing those pants out, he's not changing his hair, he's not changing his shoes. It's his time, and he's gonna look like that until he dies. On set, Pascal's communication with other actors often made it easier to work a difficult schedule. The actor talked about how he joked with new actors, in particular Matt Whalen, who played DEA agent Daniel Van Ness. We'd have these heavy vests on, and I would just punch him. We'd just be in the middle of a conversation, and I'd go, douche, douche, and he'd go, ow, ow. It was fun. And when asked by journalists how he moved from Game of Thrones to Narcos, Pascal comically noted, we don't need dragons, we got cocaine.
Information on Escobar crippled this business. She'll do the same to Cali, only this time for us. The moment she goes on record, her leverage is gone.
Despite filming in TV shows, Pascal began to be invited to film projects, so in 2016, Pedro played the mercenary Pedro Tovar in the fantastic action movie The Great Wall, together with Matt Damon. The film is set against the backdrop of the iconic Great Wall of China and tells the story of European mercenaries who are drawn into a battle against ancient creatures that threaten humanity. Despite its visually stunning production and ambitious scale, the film received mixed reviews for its storyline and character development. The next film on Pascal's resume was the British action comedy Kingsman: The Golden Circle. There, the actor played a charismatic and skilled operative in the statesman organization Jack Daniels, also known as the Agent Whiskey. The team in the film went from Colin Firth and Jeff Bridges to Halle Berry and Julianne Moore, so Pedro joked, I just had to stop myself from asking for an autograph. Although the film was very successful at the box office, critics had generally mixed opinions. However, many praised Pascal for portraying his character, and critic Chris Sasague even called him one cool cowboy, noting his, quote, genuine love for getting into a cutthroat brawl, and praising the playful side that comes so easy to Pascal, which isn't lost in playing whiskey, turning him into a worthy new character to stand beside the Kingsman agents. Pedro did not refuse the roles of antagonists, which he did very well. So in 2018, he played Dave York, the main rival of Denzel Washington's character Robert McCall in the action movie The Equalizer 2. When he was offered to audition for the role of York, Pascal did not hold back his emotions. He dreamed of working with director Antoine Fuqua, of whom Pedro had been a fan of since his film Training Day. Not to mention Denzel, revered in acting circles. Interestingly, on his first day on set, Pascal had not yet met Washington. To his surprise, Denzel himself visited Pascal's trailer early in the morning to introduce himself. They spent about an hour and a half discussing their upcoming stage and sharing their shared passion for theater. Pascal said, quote, I thought he was one of the production assistants coming to take me to makeup, and it was actually Denzel Washington. This unexpected introduction set the tone for a collaborative working relationship. Pascal expressed great respect for Washington's approach to his craft. He noted that working with Denzel was like working with a devoted classmate, stating, here I am working with one of the greats, and I was more nervous than I've ever been, and consequently, more prepared than I'd ever been. And yet, once we started rolling, it felt like I was with a classmate. As for the film itself, The Equalizer 2 received mixed reviews from critics, but was a commercial success like the first part, grossing $190 million worldwide. 2018 turned out to be a fruitful year for Pascal in terms of projects. So in the romantic drama If Beale Street Could Talk, based on the novel by James Baldwin, Pascal starred in a cameo role as Pietro Alvarez, a frivolous but important character who ultimately reveals his compassionate and sensitive side. By the way, the film received numerous positive reviews and was even nominated for a Golden Globe and Oscar. Pedro also appeared in the sci-fi film Prospect, where he portrayed the character Ezra, an experienced and mysterious prospector who travels a dangerous alien satellite in search of valuable resources. Due to the low budget of the film, filming was difficult, especially because of the costumes in which the actors had to play.
I cannot tell you, this was not a big budget film, and I mean, we were all just, we couldn't breathe. A huge challenge that was worth it to the visual experience of the movie. And be in those spacesuits, man.
The film received generally positive reviews, and Dace Johnston retroactively compared the role to Pascal's upcoming characters in The Mandalorian and The Last of Us, writing for inverse. Pedro Pascal plays a gruff man who only looks out for himself until a child softens his heart. We'll talk about these cool projects later. In the meantime, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel, if by some miracle you haven't done it yet. Ready? Then let's continue. In February 2019, Pascal made his Broadway debut in the film adaptation of King Lear with Glenda Jackson and Ruth Wilson, where he took on the role of Edmund, the cunning and ambitious illegitimate son of the Earl of Gloucester. And everything would be fine, but executive producer Jon Favreau already had other plans for the actor, namely the main role in The Mandalorian, the first television series in the Star Wars universe. The show follows the adventures of a lone bounty hunter in remote corners of the galaxy. But before Pascal knew anything about the Mandalorian project, Favreau had already seen him as the main character. He feels very much like a classic movie star in his charm and his delivery, says Favreau, and he's somebody who takes his craft very seriously. Favreau felt that Pascal could play the character of Din Djarin, who is mostly called Mando, and who will spend almost every second of his time wearing a helmet, which is part of the sacred credo of the Mandalorian Order. Convincing any actor to hide their face during the show is not an easy task. To win Pascal over during their first meeting, Favreau took him behind the Mandalorian curtain into a conference room covered with storyboards covering the arc of the first season. When he walked in, it must have felt a little surreal, Favreau says. Most of your experiences as an actor, people are kicking the tires to see if it's a good fit. But in this case, everything was locked and loaded. And it worked. I hope this doesn't sound like me fashioning myself like I'm, so smart, but I agreed to do this show because the impression I had when I had my first meeting was that this is the next big shit, Pascal said, laughing. However, Favreau's determination to take Pascal for the role of Mando put the actor in a difficult situation. After all the same time, he played on Broadway in the production of King Lear, which we noted earlier. Moreover, Pedro has also already agreed to participate in the blockbuster Wonder Woman 1984, which was shot in London. They still found a way out of this situation, and all thanks to the specifics of his character who was constantly in a helmet. So, some scenes in the show, and in at least one case, the full episode was played by Pascal's understudies, Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder, and the actor later voiced his character's dialogues in those episodes.
In shooting The Mandalorian, there was a moment where I kind of added a line at the start of the scene. The child was sort of curious about the fire coming out of the sort of like the piece of a jet. At the start of the scene, before Amy Sedaris comes walking in, I say, not too close. And then the persons operating the child reacted. So it was like the puppet was improvising with me, and I was like, these people are really on top of it.
Despite his frenzied schedule and other projects, Pedro still found time for his character Mando. And about the franchise itself, he noted, "When you're dealing with a franchise as large as this, you're such a passenger to however they're going to carve it out. It's just so specific. It's Star Wars." In the second season, the actor was on the set more often, although he still did not take on a significant number of dangerous tricks. The Mandalorian was indeed the next big event to help launch Disney Plus and attract 26.5 million subscribers in its first 6 weeks. When asked by reporters what it was like to be the most popular face of Star Wars at that time, Pedro only waved it off. I mean, come on, there isn't a face. If you want to say you're the silhouette, which is also a team effort, then yeah. And then he switched the conversation to another one. Can we just cut the shit and talk about the child? Yes, of course, it's a child, or as the rest of the galaxy calls him, Baby Yoda. Pascal first saw the incredibly cute creature while watching the same Mandalorian storyboards during his first meeting with Favreau. Literally my eyes following left to right, up and down, and boom, Baby Yoda close to the end of the first episode. He says, "That was when I was like, oh yep, that's a winner." Baby Yoda is undoubtedly the real star of The Mandalorian, inspiring fans of the franchise with endless memes. But the show wouldn't have worked if viewers weren't interested in Mando's growing emotional connection to little Yoda, which Favreau says Pascal understood from the start. He's tracking the arc of that relationship. says the showrunner. His insight has made us rethink moments over the course of the show.
Getting praise for, oh my gosh, like, you have such subtle emotion and you're dealing with a puppet. And I'm like, this puppet is making me cry. I fully, and I'm like, damn.
Even if Pascal may not always have been in Mendo's body, he never left the mind of the character. An orphaned bounty hunter who walks from planet to planet and looks askance at anything that seems too good or too charming to be true. The transience is something that I'm incredibly familiar with, Pascal says. Understanding the opportunity for complexity under all of the armor was not hard for me. Undoubtedly, the role of Mando brought Pascal much wider recognition and later helped him establish himself as an actor with a father figure in a very popular TV series. You can probably already guess what role we're talking about. If not, then wait for the last section of our video. Pedro had such a busy work schedule that it's even amazing how he managed everything. So that same year, he played the role of Francisco Morales in the Netflix robbery drama Triple Frontier, in which he played a helicopter pilot. The film, by the way, received generally positive reviews from critics.
I remember shooting Triple Frontier with friends. We were in Hawaii. I was with one of my best friends, Oscar Isaac, who made me live with him and his family. And we just had a really, really good time being badasses in the jungle. It was so cool.
When Pascal was in Hawaii preparing for shooting Triple Frontier, producer Charles Roven called him and said that Patty Jenkins wanted to meet him in London to discuss a role in another film that Roven produced, Wonder Woman 1984. It was a fucking offer, Pascal said. I wasn't really grasping that Patty wanted to talk to me about a part that I was going to play, not a part that I needed to get. I wasn't able to totally accept that. If you remember, we already told you that Pascal once actually starred in a pilot series with the same Jenkins, which was not approved in the meantime. And by the way, it was made just before the airing of the 4th season of Game of Thrones, which changed his life. I got to work with Patty for 3 days or something, and then thought I'd never see her again. He says, I didn't even know she remembered me from that. But she remembered him. I worked with him, so I knew him, she says. I didn't need him to prove anything for me. I just loved the idea of him, and I thought he would be kind of unexpected because he doesn't scream villain. In Jenkins' vision, Maxwell Lord, a longtime DC Comics con man who shares a particularly convoluted story with Wonder Woman, is a manipulative tycoon with a touch of genuine pathos. Pascal had never played such a large-scale antagonist before, so he did something equally unorthodox. Turned his script into something like a pop art album filled with pictures of Maxwell Lord from comics, which Pascal then used to get better into the character. I felt like I had to wake myself up again in a big way. This was just a practical way of instead of going home tired and putting on Netflix, I would actually deal with this physical thing, doodle, and think about it and run it. Jenkins was so positive about Pascal's work that she thought it could be a turning point in his career, just as her 2003 film Monster changed the industry's perception of Charlize Theron forever. I continually am so surprised when everybody pegs him as such a serious guy, says Patty. I have to say, Pedro is one of the most appealing people I have known. He's instantly become someone that everybody invites over and you want to have around and you want to talk to. I would never cast him as just the stoic, quiet guy. I almost think he's unrecognizable from Narcos to Wonder Woman. Wouldn't even know that was the same guy, but I think that may change. But critics' reviews of Pascal's character were not as positive as Jenkins wanted. For example, The Guardian journalist Peter Bradshaw called his image a version of Norman Vincent Peale, the positive-thinking guru who was such an influence on Presidents Nixon and Trump. But the New York Times and the BBC believed that Pascal should not have been chosen for this role at all. And the film itself received mixed reviews from critics and collected $169 million at the global box office with a production budget of $200 million. In part, this unprofitability could be explained by its simultaneous release on the HBO Max streaming platform, where it became the best film of 2020, and the COVID-19 pandemic, which limited trips to cinemas.
You are going to be so proud to be my son.
Okay.
But in the family film about superheroes by Robert Rodriguez, We Can Be Heroes, he played the role of Marcus Moreno, a retired superhero and the father of the main character, Missy. And when circumstances force him to put on a superhero costume again, Marcus must choose between his duties as a father and his duties as a hero. Screen Rant commented on this fatherly aspect of the character as follows. It certainly should be the case that Pascal's fatherly role in a children's movie portrays him as a truly loving and caring father, and that's exactly what the character does. The film was released on Netflix and received mixed reviews from critics. This did not prevent, however, from preparing its continuation. Whether Pascal will participate in the sequel is currently unknown. But Pedro did not have time to reflect on the success or failure of the projects in which he starred. After all, his work schedule was made in advance. New offers were constantly appearing, and there were more and more fans. It even became a meme. How? In early 2021, a video from the 2020 virtual play appeared on several social media platforms where My Ruination is read, in which Pascal laughs hysterically and then smoothly turns into crying. The video quickly became an internet meme. It was often combined with the Beach House song Space Song to reflect the themes of the tragedy on social media. But that wasn't the only meme with our current hero. The following year, the comedy thriller with Pascal and Nicolas Cage, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, was released. There's a scene in which Pascal's character looks at an exasperated Cage with a smile on his face as he drives under the influence of banned substances. It was this episode that spawned another TikTok internet meme. It's usually used in a humorous form when two sides are in significant disagreement or conflict with each other about some topic in an overly emotional style, and is combined with the 1969 Mama Cass song Make Your Own Kind of Music. For Pascal, this film was an opportunity to play a fan of actor Nicolas Cage, being his real fan in real life. He even enthusiastically described their first meeting during the flight to the filming location.
I saw him in front of me, and we all have our masks on, but those blue eyes, looking back at me above the mask, and I was like, I can't say the F word, but that's
Nicolas Cage.
right.
At the end of filming, everyone, including Pedro, received pillows signed by Cage. One of these pillows even got into a movie scene, although Nicolas objected. Pascal insisted on his own and left the pillow. According to the actor, this was the only time when he and Cage argued. As for the film, it received generally positive reviews from critics. Many praised the game and chemistry between Cage and Pascal. But at the box office, the film collected only $29 million against the budget of $30 million. During COVID, many of the actors just sat at home and took a break from filming. But not Pascal, who was constantly filming at that time. So he could be seen in Judd Apatow's satirical comedy The Bubble about shooting a blockbuster in the context of a pandemic.
Curated the look of that character very specifically with the bathrobe and the jewelry and the messy hair, and that's where most of my writing came was the Crocs and the comfortable pajama pants, and the rest was just being a passenger to the experience of that ensemble, which was a blast.
The film, despite the stellar cast and relevance of the topic, did not receive positive reviews. They didn't understand the humor. They didn't accept the characters, and Luke Thompson even called Pascal's character Dieter Bravo a womanizer and noted that fake ethnic accent skewers what he likely has to endure regularly. Well, after the next project, which we'll now tell you about, not a single critic has any bad words left in the direction of the star. Despite numerous well-known projects, the real fame and recognition of the actor's undisputed talent came in 2023. After his participation in the film adaptation of the popular video game The Last of Us, developed by Naughty Dog. The plot takes place in a post-apocalyptic world devastated by a fungal pandemic and focuses on the complex relationship between Joel, an experienced smuggler, and Ellie, a distinctive 14-year-old girl. Their journey through the destroyed United States is at the heart of the story, exploring themes of survival, trust, and a strong human spirit. Interestingly, Pascal got the role through an online interview while he was in London, and the showrunners of the series, including video game creator Neil Druckmann, were in Los Angeles. Due to the time difference, the interview took place in the evening and lasted until nightfall. The actor admitted that he often drinks sleeping pills to get a good night's sleep. At the same time, it acts on him as a sedative. So, before the Zoom call, he also took one pill, and the next morning completely forgot that he got the role.
I'm in London, they're in LA, I'm gonna wait by the phone all day long. This hasn't happened in a while, I'm gonna be longing, and I'm gonna think about it all day long.
You had already got the call that you got the job?
Yeah, it was like, oh, congratulations, so happy for you when I looked at my phone, and I was like, oh yeah, I got the job!
Pedro Pascal in the series plays Joel, a character hardened by the harsh realities of the new world, experiencing a deep loss. Joel's fatherly instincts and moral compass, who's tasked with accompanying Ellie around the country, are constantly tested by obstacles in their path. Pascal's interpretation brought depth to Joe's inner struggles and the evolution of his connection to Ellie. Reflecting on the role, Pascal drew parallels between Joel and his character in The Mandalorian. He said, "I think that there are really strong comparisons in terms of their journeys. and their relationships.
Developing human connection is not key to survival, only to discover that he cannot live without it at any cost.
Actress Bella Ramsey, known for her role in Game of Thrones, played the role of Ellie in the series, a girl who's both vulnerable and very independent. The chemistry between Pascal and Ramsey was key to truly portraying the relationships between the two characters, but the friendship of the actors went beyond filming. Pascal affectionately nicknamed Ramsey Belly, calling her his blessing. Ramsey, in turn, was also delighted to work with Pascal, noting, "I was extremely grateful to have Pedro leading it with me. It was super special." Transferring the interactive nature of video games to a television format has given the show's creators unique challenges. Neil Druckmann noted that some game sequences, if adapted directly, would be long and boring for a passive audience. The team had to creatively rethink these scenes to show the interaction of the characters while maintaining the essence of the original material. The series was shot in various locations in Alberta, Canada, using the region's diverse landscapes to reflect the game's environment. We had the real river, we had the real snow, very little left to the imagination. Pascal recalled, "The production team prioritized authenticity, paying close attention to detail in the scenery and practical effects, providing an immersive experience for both actors and viewers." Of course, it was not without difficulties. Due to the extreme cold in some scenes, it was difficult for the actors to speak. Pascal also noted that the filming process itself was incredibly difficult, and not only physically but also emotionally. However, Pedro admitted that thanks to the convincing script and team support, it was much easier to cope with all the difficulties. Sometimes the tension of the scenes was even relieved by the sudden laughter of the actors. "We would just crack up, like tears running down our faces," Pascal recalled. The actor added that their infectious laughter sometimes tested the patience of the entire crew, making them laugh even more. The collaboration between Pascal and Ramsey was a key element of the series' success. Their on-screen chemistry and deep understanding of Joel and Ellie's characters added emotional depth and authenticity to the story. Critics noted that their on-screen interaction was one of the strongest aspects of the project. The role of Joel was an important stage in Pascal's career, further confirming his status as a talented actor, able to embody complex and multifaceted images on the screen. It also brought him recognition not only from the audience, but also from the professional community. So at the MTV Movie and TV Awards 2023, Pedro received an award in the category Best Hero, and also, together with Bella Ramsey, was awarded as Best Duo for their collaboration in the series.
We don't have to do this. I want you to know that.
What do you mean? What else are we supposed to do?
Nothing. We just go back to Tommy's. We forget about the whole damn thing.
Around this time, Pascal was delighting his fans with new memes. One of them depicts the actor eating a sandwich during an episode of Lad Bible's Snack Wars series on YouTube, in which he appears alongside a Mandalorian creator, Jon Favreau. Several popular Pascal memes were also taken from The Last of Us episode Kin. So, for example, this is a scene of Joel's panic attack, and others that relate to his character's tendency to lean on furniture throughout the episode due to his constant state of fear. Despite these silly memes, fans and critics alike were thrilled with the versatility of Pascal's character. Thus, for the role of Joel, the actor was also nominated for several prestigious awards, including a Golden Globe and a Primetime Emmy Award. It was at these two awards that Pedro and the star of another successful TV series, Succession, Kieran Culkin, got a kind of conflict. The fact is that during the awards ceremony of the Golden Globes Awards, Kieran mentioned Pascal in his speech, ending it with the words, "Suck it, Pedro." Pascal himself did not expect to hear his name in such a context. However, already at the Emmy Awards, he was able to win back, and when he came out to announce the nominations, he said that his shoulder injury, which actually occurred as a result of a fall, was received from his fellow actor, noting, "Kieran Culkin beat the shit out of me." Culkin's face showed no emotion at the moment as he looked at his so-called rival, while the entire audience laughed. Then, when Pascal started announcing the nominees, both actors burst out laughing, and this fictional conflict between Pascal and Culkin was one of the main events of last year's awards season. As of March, fans are already waiting for the second season of the series, which is scheduled to premiere on April 13th, 2025. This season plans to dive deeper into the post-apocalyptic world, introduce new characters, and even more interesting plot twists. It is known that filming of the second season began in February 2024, after the end of the writers' strikes at the end of 2023. This season consists of 7 episodes, which is 2 less than in the first season. However, the creators noted that the extended storyline will spread to subsequent seasons, providing full coverage of the source material. Moreover, one episode is said to be almost full length, immersing the viewer in the universe of the series. Season 2 will be an adaptation of the second part of the video game The Last of Us Part 2, with a significant time jump of about 5 years. Joel and Ellie, who now live in Jackson, Wyoming, will face new threats, including from Abby, a vengeful soldier portrayed by Caitlin Dever. The storyline explores themes of retribution and the aftermath of past actions, featuring factions such as the Seraphites religious cult and the Washington Liberation Front, WLF, a militia led by Isaac, played by Jeffrey Wright. And now, a few spoilers for those who haven't played the game.
Joel Miller.
Who are you?
Guess.
This refers to Joel's death, which is one of the most difficult moments. So, the showrunners were under tremendous pressure to do it right. The execution was supposed to be quick and stunning, and Ellie had to watch it. It's a stunning moment designed to make viewers feel Ellie's grief and anger, triggering a cycle of revenge throughout the story. Pedro Pascal understands the inevitability of his hero's fate. He acknowledged the emotional weight of Joel's story and expressed confidence in the showrunners who would handle it properly. During the South by Southwest event in Austin on March 8, 2025, the cast and creators also shared their thoughts on the second season. Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey expressed enthusiasm for the development of their characters and the overall storyline, and the actors collectively admired the new season, hinting at more action scenes, deeper exploration of characters, and the disclosure of complex emotional themes. And while fans were waiting for the continuation of the cult series, they had the opportunity to see other films with their favorite star. So, for example, Pascal appeared in the American crime comedy Drive Away Dolls, directed by Ethan Coen, but the film received mixed reviews from critics. The audience liked the short Western drama Strange Way of Life, written and directed by Pedro Almodovar, much more. Pascal, along with Ethan Hawke, played two shooter friends who reunited after 25 years of separation. Deadline Hollywood's Pete Hammond praised Hawke and Pascal for, quote, authenticity and a believable, lived-in feel to their characters and this relationship. David Fear of Rolling Stone reviewed Strange Way of Life as, quote, a provocative movie that brings out the best in both of its leads. Meanwhile, Time magazine has named him one of the most 100 influential people in the world. Pascal was also named an honoree of the Great Immigrants Award by Carnegie Corporation of New York. The actor also went down in history as the first Latin American to receive 3 Emmy nominations in the same year: Best Actor in a Drama Series for his role in The Last of Us, Best Guest Actor in a Comedy Series for his guest host role in Saturday Night Live, and Best Narrator for the role as the narrator in Patagonia: Life on the Edge of the World. His work in the animated feature film The Wild Robot was also remarkable, where Pedro played Fink, a fox who plays the role of the father of a runt Canada goose, along with the robot Roz. Critics and viewers were delighted, and the film grossed more than $333 million at the box office. A bright character of Pascal was also General Acacius from the sequel to the epic film Gladiator by Ridley Scott. This character is portrayed as a conflicted leader who adds depth to the narrative through his moral ambiguity and strategic decisions. The casting was quite interesting. So in the picture you could see both new faces and everyone's favorite actors, such as, for example, Denzel Washington. Leading actor Paul Mescal had an interview with the director online, but Pedro met with him personally.
I think it started with an actual meeting with Ridley to go and sit down with him. And whether or not the movie was going to happen for me or not, I was like, I'm going to go meet Ridley 100%. Scott. It wasn't even about getting the job. It was like, I'm going to go and sit down, maybe 5 minutes, 10, 20, as many minutes.
The film continued the saga of ancient Rome, introducing new characters and storylines that expanded the original story. The production of Gladiator 2 spanned several countries, using a variety of landscapes to truly recreate the grandeur of ancient Rome. The iconic Colosseum was reconstructed at Fort Ricasoli in Calcutta, Malta, in the same location as in the original film. The set was expanded for larger-scale scenes. Orzazate in Morocco served as the backdrop for the Roman North African kingdom of Numidia. The production transformed existing designs to depict battle scenes, including a naval battle shot in the desert using advanced visual effects to simulate water. Additional film sets were also set up in England to represent various Roman localities, contributing to the expanded portrayal of the empire in the film. Production faced a tight schedule, just 12 weeks to design and 20 weeks to build, compared to the longer periods for the film. Despite these limitations, the team has achieved extraordinary authenticity and scale of the scenery. Like the original film, Gladiator 2 received an R rating from the Motion Picture Association due to, quote, excessive bloody violence. Unlike his other past films, Scott stated that Gladiator 2 would not have a director's version as he earned the right to his final editing and removed some scenes during filming, so he didn't have to do it after the film was finished. The film met its expectations among the audience, so it earned more than $462 million at the box office. Critics' opinions were divided. For example, Christopher Campbell praised the action, acting, story, and visual effects. Nick Hyman at Metacritic said that most critics also feel that the film lives in the shadow of the more emotional and ultimately superior original. How do you like the continuation of the cult classic Gladiator? Write in the comments.
Do what you must. But on my death, you have to know. I love your mother, Lucilla. And your father, Maximus.
And finally, Pascal fans in Marvel are waiting for another blockbuster with their favorite actor in one of the main roles. We are talking about the legendary Fantastic Four. The film, directed by Matt Shakman, takes place in the retro-futuristic 1960s, offering a fresh approach to storytelling that's different from previous adaptations. Deciding not to retell the character's origin story, Shakman and his team decided to start the story after the characters acquired their abilities. This solution allows the film to explore new storylines without going back to the familiar plot. Major filming took place from July to November 2024 in London and Oviedo, Spain. The production used advanced motion capture technology to portray characters such as Ben Grimm / The Thing as truthfully as possible. Pascal speaks warmly of his character Reed Richards, or the so-called Mr. Fantastic.
Never have we had the experience of being able to kind of make contact with the love of characters that we are just starting, that matches the love that we have for them right at the beginning of our journey. And that is a hell of a pick-me-up.
Pascal, by the way, was taken to the Fantastic Four last, but the actor had no idea whether to take on this project or not. He confirmed his decision with the words, "This is Marvel." The actor's portrayal of Mr. Fantastic required a significant physical transformation from the actor. After filming, Pascal noticeably built up, and his athletic physique once again proved his dedication to a real transformation into a superhero character. To achieve this transformation, Pascal did intense fitness, focusing on both cardio and strength training. This comprehensive approach was designed to improve muscle clarity and overall agility, while aligning with the physical requirements of portraying a character known for his elasticity and resilience. Since Vanessa Kirby will play Pascal's on-screen wife, it goes without saying that the two actors spend a lot of time together. Although their relationship seems absolutely charming to many, there will always be those who'll stoop to spreading negativity. For example, Kirby and Pascal attended San Diego Comic-Con this year, where a video of their candid interaction went viral. In the video, Pascal can be seen touching Kirby's shoulder, which she notices and holds his hand. For most, a silent conversation would seem like a moment of mutual understanding between two colleagues and friends. However, some criticized Pedro for trying to touch Kirby under the guise of a panic attack and said that this is not a good reason for a man to touch a woman. Since Pascal deals with bouts of anxiety, there's a good chance he wanted Kirby's touch to help calm him down in a stressful situation. Fortunately, Kirby's kind words to Pascal were enough to appease the haters. We love each other so much. I've been away from them for 2 days and I miss them. We're having such great times together. I'm really hopeful for the movie, and Matt Shakman is amazing, and Pedro Pascal is heavenly. By the way, the actor spoke about his struggle with anxiety in an interview with The Guardian, saying that he's been living with this condition for so long that he no longer knows who he would be without anxiety. Anxiety is something that I've lived with since I was a child, so it's a part of my chemistry. I don't know what kind of person I'd be without it. It's something that I manage, but it's also part of what makes me, me, he said. Pascal also admitted that there are times when his anxiety really helps him and keeps his career under control, stating that there's a certain level of anxiety that helps me do good work. It helps me be aware of the things I need to be aware of. It's always nice to see actors who seem invincible from afar talk openly about their struggles. After all, celebrities are also people. Soon, the star will celebrate his 50th birthday. We'd like to wish him even more interesting projects because such talent should not be wasted. And we hope that Pedro will finally find his love, because a successful career is not all that's needed for happiness. Well, that's all for today. We hope that we helped you get to know that wonderful actor Pedro Pascal more and answered all the questions that interested you. If not, you can write in the comments what we missed. Biographer was with you. Stay with us, and see you soon.